Hi there, I'm the _Twig and I like analysing game rules. D&D Player's Handbook Playtest 6 is out and I think that WotC might be trying to murder me. It's 77 pages. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff in here, but I'm going to start with the monk because it's been a long time coming. First though, a quick recap of some of the difficulties the monk faced in 2014. As I see it, there were 4 main problems with the monk. First, unarmed strikes were just not very good. They had incredibly few rules interactions or synergies and low damage. This issue has actually mostly been addressed already. Unarmed strikes in the playtest are actually pretty acceptable. I made a full 30-minute video about them a while ago, so if you want to see my workings behind why I'm saying this is no longer an issue, go watch that. I do have 2 caveats to add though. First, I made that video before the weapon masteries were released, and second, I made the assumption that monks would be able to use dexterity instead of strength for grapples and push DCs. More on that later. Moving on, the second issue that monks had was that they had very poor defences. Monks can't use armour, their unarmoured defence feature does not make up for that fact, and they only had D8 hit dice. Bonus action dodging with patient defence is very good, but that just goes into the third issue, resource management. The thing that people normally talk about here is that almost every single monk feature uses ki, so you run out way too quickly. But I think that this resource management issue is actually a double whammy if you consider that bonus actions are resources. So many monk features flow through the bonus action, and you only get to do one of them each turn. If you use patient defense, you can't use martial arts to get an extra unarmed strike. The final issue that monks had was that they were really hard to multiclass. Many of their features just stop working if you put armor on, or even think about touching a shield, and many others only work with monk weapons and unarmed strikes. These 4 issues are what needed to be addressed to fix the monk, at least in my opinion. There's more that could be done as well, but those are the core problems. Right, this here is the Playtest 6 PDF. There's a couple of things I want to talk about before I go into the actual class features. First, they've renamed a lot of stuff. You no longer have key points, you have discipline points. And stillness of mind is now self-restoration. They've deflavoured the monk away from the Asian stereotype and towards a generic martial artist. I like this. Overall, 5e has done a really good job of being ethnically inclusive. There's art of Caucasians, Africans, Asians, Latinos, and of course a bunch of fantasy species, so everyone can find something that they relate to. I think that this is another step in the right direction, by not having a big red flag saying, this is the Chinese character. My only real additional request is to change the name monk to something more generic, like brawler. The second thing is that they seem to have hidden a weird extra rule here. If you sign up to the _Twig's Patreon, your monk gets a free ice cream. Big fan of this change, and I'm sure all of these guys are too. Especially SK, whose monks now get full-on Sundays. Signing up also gives you early access to my videos, even earlier access to audio-only versions, and access to my private Discord. Right, so actual class features now. Monks still have D8 hit dice and no armour training. Not a great start. They also lost short swords for some reason, but that doesn't actually matter because hand axes are probably better. Next up, martial arts at first level. I'm going to read this bit word for word. You gain the following benefits while you are unarmed or wielding only simple weapons and you aren't wearing armour or wielding a shield. Somehow they've made the multiclassing issue even worse. Seriously, why does this line need to exist? If it was just no heavy armour, I could deal with that, but no armour, shields or anything other than a simple weapon. Why? Issue 4, monks being hard in multiclass, failed. Just remove this line guys, please. Now the actual features that you get from this are bonus unarmed strike, which is a bonus action unarmed strike, dexterous attack, which lets you use dex for attack and damage rolls with unarmed strike and all simple weapons except the great club, and martial arts die. This is one size bigger than before, which is actually good enough given all the other buffs that unarmed strikes received. It only applies to your unarmed strikes now though, not your weapons. This means that your unarmed strikes will start to outdamage your weapons, which I'm not a fan of to be honest. I don't really see why they need to pigeonhole you. The other issue is that they forgot to add that thing about your grapple and shove DCs using dex. If you want to have a monk who makes full use of the new unarmed strike rules, you still need strength. Honestly, what were they thinking with this new feature? It has so many issues and clashes with other mechanics, and it just really pigeonholes you into your playstyle of repeatedly punching. Easy to fix though. Replace the stuff about armour, shields and weapons with just heavy armour, let martial arts die apply to simple weapons, and give dex DCs on grapple and shove. There is some debate as to whether or not the bonus unarmed strike should require a bonus action, or if it should just be free. I think free would be better because it addresses that resource management bonus action problem. But in that case you would need to prevent Monk from also getting a free attack from the Nick weapon mastery. I think the easiest way to do this is just give Unarmed Strike the light weapon property and a line saying that you can make the extra attack without a bonus action. That would stop you from double dipping with Nick. Also at first level, Unarmed Defense. This is the same as always and it's still subpar. Spoiler, all of the other defensive features in the core Monk class are also still subpar. So I'm going to say issue 2, poor defences, failed. Again, easy fix for this defense problem. Just remove that thing about martial arts and no armour. I'd also like to see Unarmed Defense itself not be so picky about shields. I don't think the Monk base class needs shield proficiency, but Unarmed Defense shouldn't stop working when you equip one. Alternatively, maybe Unarmed Defense should add your proficiency bonus. That would give you probably 17 or 18 AC at first level, going all the way up to probably around 24 to 26 max. More conservative would be half proficiency. Either way, it needs a buff. Also at first level, Weapon Mastery. You get 2 masteries with this feature, and both must be simple weapons. If you want a recap of weapon masteries, here's my video about them. There aren't honestly a lot of good options here, unfortunately. Dagger is always good, and then hand axe and short bow are good, I guess. Great club would be great for push, but it's two-handed, so it doesn't work with dexterous attack. Weapon mastery is obviously great to have though. Worth pointing out is that until 17th level, an unmodified hand axe and dagger combo is more damage than a single punch. Okay, second level, Martial Discipline. This is renamed Ki. The only change here is that Step of the Wind got buffed. It's now 1 discipline point to dash and disengage, and to also double your jump distance. You get all 3. I'd still kind of prefer pick 1 and there's no key cost, but this is at least a bit better. Also at second level, Unarmored Movement. Again, unchanged, but I would like to see this have the same treatment as martial arts. Just limit it to no heavy armour. Third level, Deflect Missiles. This now applies to all ranged, bludgeoning, piercing and slashing attacks. When you throw it back, it's now a dex save, not an attack roll, and the damage is now 2 martial arts die, not just 1. It's probably a slight improvement overall, but not majorly so. Also not sure why it's a saving throw now. I'm going to skip subclasses and talk about them in a bit, and I'm also going to skip the ASIs. I do have something to say there, but I'm going to save it for the end because it's a bit niche. Slow Fall is at 4th level and it's unchanged. Same for extra attack at 5th. Right, Stunning Strike. This was honestly a very problematic feature in 2014. It was way too swingy. Honestly, Stunning Strike wasn't very good. It was dependent on 2 rolls, targeted the worst save, probably didn't have a great DC, and would absolutely drain your ki. If you did get it off though, it was absolutely debilitating. There's a reason why for years the general player base considered the Monk to be a boss slayer. If they got lucky, they could completely destroy any fight. Obviously spellcasters were able to do the same and more, but that's a separate issue. So what did they do? They made it once per turn, and it now lasts until the start of your next turn, not the end. At least it won't eat through all your ki in a single turn now? What I wanted to see here was for Stunning Strike to be weaker, but more consistent. One of my subscribers, BlizzNerd, showed me a really cool piece of homebrew that they made a while ago, where they gave the Monk a feature called Slowing Strike. This had different effects depending on how much ki you spent, and did things like only letting the enemy use an action or bonus action, restricting their movement or putting them under the effect of the slowed spell. The DC also increased by the amount of ki spent. I like this idea a lot, and I've been messing around with it. Currently my favourite form is to make Stunning Strike once per turn, with no saving throw, and to give the enemy the dazed condition. That means that they can only move or use an action on their turn and can't use reactions. This would make it reliably good without being completely broken. The Stunning Strike written here though is just really not good. Right, 6th level, Empowered Strikes. Rather than your punches being magical, they can now deal force damage. Good, let's continue moving away from the magical damage, because it's really annoying. 7th level brings Evasion, which is the same as always, and Heightened Metabolism, which gives you a once per day 1 minute short rest. I actually really like this one. The Genie Warlock gets something similar to this, and in actual play, it's really strong. It makes sure that you can keep going a little longer, even if your party or DM don't want to rest. Super good feature. Keep this, Watsy. 9th level Acrobatic Movement is just renamed Improved Unarmoured Movement. Same treatment about just heavy armour, please. Self-Restoration is the Monk's 10th level feature, and it basically just merges Stillness of Mind, Purity of Body and Timeless Body, and then makes them a bonus action. That's fine, no problems here. and it stops them from taking up 3 slots with mediocre features. You do lose the immunity to poison damage, however I'm basically convinced that this was just one of those mistakes that they decided to double down on instead of admitting that they made an error and writing an erratum. At 13th level you get Deflect Energy, which just improves Deflect Missiles by allowing you to use it on any ranged attacks, not just BPS ones. This is probably fine, but it's worth noting that it doesn't apply to saves. You can't throw back a Dragon's Breath weapon. Honestly, this seems kind of late, I think. 14th level Discipline Survivor is renamed Diamond Soul. 15th level Perfect Discipline is the old monk capstone. I think this is absolutely fine to bring down from 20. It was an awful capstone, but they still didn't fix the issue of this doing nothing if you're at 1 DP. I think they should probably say that you regain 4 ki when you roll initiative. That would be theoretically abusable by just starting fights, but it's easy to rule against that as the DM. At 18th level you used to get Empty Body, which allowed you to spend 4 ki to go invisible and get resistance to all damage except force, or spend 8 ki to use Astral Projection. It's now called Superior Defense, and is just 3 DP to get the resistances. This is a nerf, but I kinda don't really care. Invisibility and Astral Projection no longer make sense now that the monk has been demystified, and it's still decent. Finally, the new capstone Defy Death. This allows you to spend 4 DP when you drop to 0 HP to instead go to 4d12 HP. You never actually go unconscious, so your superior defense or concentration or whatever don't get broken. You can do this multiple times, although every time it costs 2 more ki, resetting on a short rest. I think this costs way too much ki. It should probably be free the first time and then increase by 2. 4 ki is far too steep. So that's the base monk class. It's not great. I've already said that it failed the defense and multiclassing problems, but I think it still fails the resource management problem too, at least at low levels. The first 2 are fairly easy to fix. I've already explained how I would do it. The last one would require some more major overhauls though, and I don't think that's likely. The best way I can think of is to give monks a small pool of ki, probably no more than 4 at max, and have it recharge every turn. I've been a bit negative about this monk, but once those 2 easy issues are patched, they fix up martial arts for grapple and shove DCs, and they do something with Stunning Strike. I think this monk is actually fine. Not top tier, but good enough. Now though, I get to be more positive, because the subclasses are pretty cool. We've got 4 in the playtest: Warrior of Shadows, the Elements, the Hand, and Mercy. Warrior of Mercy is just Way of Mercy from Tasha's, so they haven't reprinted it. Mercy is decent, it's one of the better monks. I don't think it's the best one, I'd say Shadow is probably better, and the Kensei has good niches, but Mercy is overall pretty decent. Personally, I'd still prefer to have an updated Kensei though. Just because I'm a pedant, I will point out that the monk subclasses feature says Warrior of the Open Hand, but everywhere else it's just the Hand. So, Warrior of Shadows gets Shadow Art at 3rd level. This used to give them Minor Illusion, and a list of 2nd level spells which they could cast by spending 2 ki. They now get Minor Illusion, 60-foot Dark Vision, and a Darkness spell, which can be cast with 1 ki. And you can also see through it and move it at the start of your turns for free. Sad to see that Pass Without Trace and Silence have gone, but I think this is still pretty damn good. It's essentially automatic advantage and free disengages against the majority of enemies. Really good stuff. Always remember that with Darkness, you can actually cast it on an object that you're holding, for example your dagger, and then just run around with it so you're not blocking the line of sight of all of your allies. 6th level Shadow Step is unchanged. It's a 60-foot bonus action teleport between 2 points in dim light or darkness, and you get advantage on your next attack after it. Given that you'll probably have darkness up most of the time in combat, I think this is probably more useful out of combat, where it's a free teleport, and no one can complain about that. At 11th level, you used to get this really weak and honestly kind of redundant invisibility, but you now get improved Shadow Step. If you spend 1 ki, you can now teleport even when in bright light, and you get a free unarmed strike immediately after teleporting. Worth noting is that this unarmed strike will always eat the Shadow Step advantage. Finally, 17th level is the new version of that crap invisibility, Cloak of Shadows. You used to get essentially the reaction attack from the Sentinel feat here, but instead you now get to spend 3 DP to turn invisible, run through walls, and use Flurry of Blows without spending ki. That's really good. You can even end in a wall for full cover, although you do take 1d10 force damage. I reckon that's a good trade though. So, Warrior of Shadows overall is pretty great. Lots of advantage generation, utility, and actually defences. I think that the Shadow Monk probably passes the defences problem. Really big fan of this one, it looks like a lot of fun. Warrior of the Elements is up next, and this one is kind of infamous. It was probably the single worst subclass in the 2014 PHB. Definitely worse than Champion and Beastmaster, and probably worse than Berserker. They've completely changed it, top to bottom. At 3rd level you get Elemental Attunement, which gives you a few things. First you get Elementalism, which is a new cantrip. Not much to talk about this one really, it's just a new Prestidigitation type cantrip. Fun to mess around with, and you might be able to think of some creative uses. The main part of this feature is that you can spend 1 DP and no actions to get a sort of elemental form. In this form, your unarmed strikes do your choice of acid, cold, fire or lightning damage, have a reach of 15 feet, and you can subject anyone you hit to a strength save, pushing or pulling them 10 feet on a failure. We were talking in my Discord about how cool a Bugbear Elementals monk with Spirit Guardians would be. You could punch someone 15 feet away and drag them in to trigger your Spirit Guardian's damage. This also allows you to do some really cool stuff with disjointed grapples, where you can hold someone out of their melee range. The grappling does have a bit of jank though, because the condition says that it ends if the distance between you and the grappler exceeds the grapple's range. Elemental Attunement only increases your reach when you make an unarmed strike, it's not a constant effect. Technically that means that if you grapple someone 15 feet away, they are then immediately out of your reach. However, grappled doesn't mention your reach, it talks about the grapple's range. And when you made the grapple, it had a range of 15 feet. Weird janky stuff, it probably needs neatening up. Right then, 6th level is Environmental Blast, and this is a 2 DP fireball at home. It does 3 martial arts dice of damage from the same range of damage types as before. You can then make a single unarmed strike as a bonus action afterwards. At face value, this looks weak. Fireball is 8d6, this is 3d8. It's a lot cheaper though, and I highly expect Fireball to get nerfed in the future. Probably down to 66. I think this is fine. At 11th level, you get an upgrade to your Step of the Wind. That's your Disengage plus Dash for 1 DP feature. You also get a Fly and Swim speed for 10 minutes. Cheap fly speed, I'll take that, sure, great feature. It even combos with Elemental Attunement, because you can pull an enemy upwards to make them fall prone. Finally, at 17th level, when you use your Elemental Attunement Super Stretchy Arm form, you also get a resistance to one of the 4 elemental damage types, which you can change for free at the start of your turn. Also, once per turn, you can do 1d12 extra damage when you hit someone with the unarmed strike, and if you use Step of the Wind while in Elemental Attunement, your speed increases by 20 feet, which is then doubled by the dash, and you do 1d12 damage to every enemy you run past. Remember that you also have a fly speed. This is very similar to Ashardalon Stride, which is a super fun spell. Warrior of the Elements is good. It's a very movement and control based monk, and it encourages a more hit and run type of playstyle, which I would consider to be a soft defense. It's not as good in that respect as Shadow, but it works. There's definitely room for some fun optimization stuff in this one, such as the thing I mentioned about the Spirit Guardian's Bugbear, or maybe multiclassing Druid for spike growth. Last one here is Warrior of the Hand. 3rd level is Open Hand Technique. The only change here is that now removing the enemy's reactions requires a Constitution saving throw. Why exactly? Don't think this one needed nerfing. The rest of it is still good though, a 15-foot push on a strength save or prone on a dex save. 6th level is Wholeness of Body. This is a self-heal. It's now a bonus action and you can do it whiz times per day instead of just once, but they've reduced the overall healing. This is fine. Not great, but probably better than before. Fleet Step at 11 is replacing the self-cast Sanctuary, which did almost nothing. Now lets you use Step of the Wind without spending any DP. This is kind of eh. It's both disengage and dash, but still, rogues have been doing something similar since 2nd level. Finally, Quivering Palm is at 17th level. They've removed the auto kill, which I think is a good decision, and the damage is now 10d12 plus monk level, halving on a success. This is 3 key points and a delayed action, but it's still a big chunk of damage. Honestly, I don't think Warrior of the Hand is good enough. I'm not sure why you'd play this instead of Elements, which just looks way better to me. I think it needs some buffing and probably a better identity. Currently it's just the monk, but I think it should do something more. For example, the Shadow is the sneaky and utility monk, and the Elements is the fast and movie monk. Hand needs something like that. Maybe just give Hand access to a bunch of different weapon masteries which can be applied to unarmed strikes. maybe you could pick 2 or 3 from the list and your unarmed strikes just have them. So that's it for Monk. The Shadow and Element subclasses are really cool, and Mercy makes a good trio with them. Warrior of a Hand needs a bit more. As I said before, once they fix the issues with armor and weapon restrictions, make grappling and shoving dex based, and just mop up Stunning Strike, this Monk will be fine. The subclasses help a lot. I still don't think it will be one of the best classes in the game, but it will be good enough. Last niche thing, fighting styles. In the previous playtests, these had the prerequisites of being a warrior class. However, this requirement has changed to having the fighting style feature. This means that monks cannot take fighting styles anymore. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed, and subscribe if you did. If you can share this with a friend, that also helps out a lot. And remember to sign up for my Patreon if you want that free ice cream. I'm unfortunately going on holiday for 2 weeks, so I won't be able to make any more videos for a little while, but I will definitely have some good stuff when I'm back. They've put Glamour Bard in the playtest. I love Glam. Bye!